morning, everyone. My name is Emily Quarles-Maurer, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown. Welcome to all of you who are during this beautiful Sunday, joining us in the sanctuary. Welcome to all of us who are with us on Zoom today, and welcome to anyone out there who's visiting us later on YouTube. We are, with all the choices you have for Sunday morning and all the choices you have for your time anytime, we are really glad that you chose to visit us today. This morning, our music is played by Rick Price. Thank you so much. And our technology lead is Rick Dusky. Thank you, Rick. For over 50 years, the UUFP has been a liberal religious voice in the Pottstown area. As UUs, we believe that the world is a wonderland full of ideas to explore, and exploring is part of the fun of living. The world is a big place, and we all have lots of questions. So the important thing is that we keep an open mind and support one another as we search for answers. But perhaps most importantly, we believe that your search belongs to you, and our circle of justice and compassion is big enough to hold you, no matter what questions you're asking, and no matter what answers you find in your search. We hope that your spirit, your heart, and your mind are refreshed this morning as we explore the concept of hospitality. We come together this Sunday morning and every Sunday morning, not because we share a creed, but because we share a promise. We promise to support one another on our spiritual journeys. Our services are different each week, but the loving kindness we offer one another here is always the same. So whoever you are, wherever you are, whomever you love, we're very glad to have you with us today. Now we have some time for announcements. If anyone has an announcement, please feel free to come on up to the front and introduce yourself and share a little bit.
Hello, I'm Monica. We're gonna have a bonfire here outside, not inside, on November 16th, which is a Saturday from 6 to 9. So if you want to help with it, let me know.
All of our announcements today, so I'd like to introduce Mark Bernstein as our speaker this morning. So
Good morning. It's very nice to be back here. I am Mark Bernstein. I bring you greetings from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County in Media, where I have been a member for 30 plus years. The chalice lighting this morning are the words of Paul Stephen Dodenhoff. For this 1 hour, Spirit of life, we let go. For this 1 hour, may we let go of our anxieties, our fears, our anger, our self-doubts, our regrets, our petty grievances, and our distractions. If only for this 1 hour, let the flame of this chalice burn them from our hearts and minds and light our way to peace and serenity for this one holy hour. The words of Paul Stephen Dodenhoff.
So one of the things I love about technology is that it brings the world a little bit closer together when we all feel so far apart. But one of the things that's tough about technology is that it can distract us from one another when we're all in the room together. So this is our weekly reminder to take a chance on being just together and forgetting about Facebook for an hour or so. So you can put your phone to worship mode. And then if you want to settle more firmly into your chair, close your eyes, take a nice deep breath. Listen to the sounds of the room. It's amazing how little silence we get in our busy world. And it's wonderful when we can take just a minute. Just a minute to be quiet in ourselves.
Morning's opening words are those of Margaret Weiss. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possibility. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope for something new to happen. Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here now to this moment. Come, let us worship together. The opening hymn is Here We Have Gathered, number 360. Please rise in body or in spirit. I've been invited to give a story for all ages. So if anyone of any age would like to come down here and sit down on the floor, and I'll come a little closer to you. I would sit on the floor, but it would take me the rest of the service to get back up. So I'm going to sit in a chair. Hi, guys. So here's my story. A long time ago, in a land dotted with small towns and sprawling countryside, there lived a little boy named Joel. Anybody named Joel here? Joel had curly brown hair, bright eyes full of wonder, and a heart eager to help others. He lived with his family in a cozy house by the edge of a bustling town called Bethany. One Sunday morning, as Joel was helping his mother in the garden, a dusty traveler walked by. The traveler looked tired, with clothes worn from a long journey and a face lined with the marks of the hot sun. Joel watched as the man paused, looking longingly at their well, where cool water glittered invitingly. Seeing the stranger's weary state, Joel's mother whispered to him, "Remember what you've been taught. When you welcome a stranger, you might be welcoming an angel without knowing it." Joel ran up to the man and said, "Hello, you look thirsty. Would you like some water? We have plenty." The dusty traveler smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners, grateful for the boy's offer. "Thank you kindly," he said, as he followed Joel to the well. As the traveler drank the cold water, Joel's curiosity grew. "Are you from around here?" he asked. The traveler wiped his mouth and replied, "I come from a place far, far away. I've been traveling for months, visiting town after town, but I've seldom encountered such warmth and welcome." Joel's mother came forward with a basket of fresh bread and cheese. She handed it to the man and said, "You must be hungry. Please have some food. Where are you headed?" The traveler gratefully accepted the food and shared his story. He was in search of a new home, a place where he could settle down and live in peace. He talked of the lands he had seen, the people he had met, and the lessons he had learned. Moved by his story, Joel's family decided to do more. They invited the traveler to stay with them for a few days to rest before continuing on his journey. The traveler accepted, and in the days that followed, he became like a member of their family, sharing meals and stories and laughter. During the traveler's stay, Joel and his family learned many valuable lessons about kindness, compassion, and the joy of new friendships. Joel's friends from Bethany came by to meet the traveler, and soon they too offered their help, bringing blankets, clothes, and food to make his stay more comfortable. The traveler shared tales of ancient times, stories from far-off lands, and wisdom beyond his years. The people of Bethany listened intently, and their hearts grew warmer with each word. Joel noticed a change in the townspeople. They smiled more. They greeted one another with kinder words, and there was a new sense of togetherness in the air. When the time came for the traveler to depart, the whole town gathered to say goodbye. There were tears and hugs, for the traveler had touched the lives of everyone he met. Joel and his family promised to hold dear the lessons he had taught them, and they waved as he disappeared into the horizon. Joel realized through this experience that no act of kindness, no matter how small, goes unnoticed. The stranger had become a friend, a teacher, and a reminder that we never know the impact we can have on someone's life just by opening our hearts and our homes. That's my story. Thanks. Why don't we sing the children out now? I have a reading for you this morning. It's an excerpt from the book Radical Hospitality by Father Daniel Homan and Lonnie Collins Pratt. They write, "Here is the core of hospitality. May I know you better? Will you come closer, please? No, it will not be easy, but make no mistake about it. Your life depends on this saving stranger coming to you and stretching your tight little heart. Hospitality is a personal response to your own need to connect with other people. This need is at the core of what it means to be human. Your entire humanity, your identity itself is wrapped up in your need to connect. The real question, they write, is not how dangerous that stranger is. The real question is how dangerous will I become if I don't learn to be more open?
Now is the time in our service where we come together for an offering. Our offering helps us to connect with one another, helps to sustain this building that we all love. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and these people, and to say yes to the community that we built here. Thank you so much for the morning offering, given in a spirit of generosity and received with love and gratitude.
The following is a true story. The names have been deleted to protect the innocent and the not so innocent. Several years ago, while I was working full-time for the Central East region of the UUA, I was invited by the minister of a rather large congregation in Maryland. I will not divulge the name of, unless you pay me under the table, I won't tell you the name of the congregation, to come to a worship service anonymously. She had recently begun her ministry at this church and had the sense that members of the congregation were not as welcoming as they could be. So I was to play the role of a mild-mannered visitor, interested in sitting in on a worship service and seeing what it was all about. I agreed to take on the assignment and showed up for the second of their two services. As I entered, I had to search for someone who would acknowledge my presence. And I finally spotted two people behind what I assumed was the welcome table. They greeted me warmly, handed me a name tag, and directed me to the sanctuary where the service would be starting in a few minutes. I didn't want to sit down right away, so I decided to explore the building a bit, and I strolled around, passing scores of congregants along the way. In fact, that was my intention. I purposely looked at folks as I passed them, something I don't normally do. And I smiled, trying to be as noticeable as I could. I recall that not one person smiled back. Most did not even look in my direction. And no one said hello or tried to engage me in conversation. Feeling quite alone, I quickly made my way to the sanctuary, seeking solace in one of the pews. After a few minutes, someone sat down directly behind me, leaned forward, and asked me if I was visiting for the first time. When I responded in the affirmative, she said, "Welcome." I said, "It's too late." No, I'm kidding, I didn't. I didn't say it's too late. After the lovely worship service, I made my way again down the hallway and entered a room where folks congregated to drink coffee and eat cookies. I grabbed a cup. I was instructed to take a yellow cup, signifying my visitor status, and a cookie, and I went to a corner of the room where I could be clearly seen. I remember standing there for about 5 minutes or so. It seemed a lot longer, with my cup and my cookie, and not one person came over to me. It was obvious by my positioning that I was not with anyone. I even raised my yellow coffee cup up in the air so that people could see I was a visitor. Nothing worked. Did I mention this is a true story? Eventually I gave up, finished my coffee and my cookie, and I headed back down the hallway to meet up with the minister and the board to whom I was to report on my welcoming experience. While it may not have come as a surprise to the minister, I believe many members of the board, as I recall, were quite shocked that their congregation was not as welcoming as they thought they were. I also remember thinking that if this had been a real experience, and I was someone who was seriously considering this congregation, I would not have stepped into that building again. During my tenure with the region, and now as adjunct staff with the region, I have experienced this kind of reception over and over again. I really have. Maybe it's me. It's the rule rather than the exception. I stand by the statement that I made years ago and still believe. Unitarian Universalist congregations are not as welcoming as they think they are, and they are certainly not as welcoming as they need to be. You still love me? You okay? But hospitality, particularly radical hospitality, begins with, but goes far beyond merely welcoming the stranger. In their book entitled Radical Hospitality, Benedict's Way of Love, authors Father Daniel Holman and Lonnie Collins Pratt envision radical hospitality as something that goes beyond mere politeness and surface level interactions. It emphasizes the idea of welcoming others with an open heart and a generous spirit, viewing every encounter as an opportunity for personal growth and a way to connect with our spiritual selves. Radical hospitality enables us to create more inclusive communities, better live out our promises to each other, and reach out to those who are marginalized. Many of the ideas that I will share with you this morning are drawn from this inspirational book. Saint Benedict of Nursia was a 6th century Italian Christian monk, writer, and theologian who wrote The Rule of Saint Benedict, a book of rules or guidelines for his monks to follow and for the daily life and organization of monastic communities. The rule has endured for the past 1,500 years, and its teachings among the monastic community are still followed today. They have great relevance for Unitarian Universalists who seek harmony among ourselves and our communities, and the hope that we can encourage others to join with us. In the Benedictine way of radical hospitality, we are expected to provide a profound and unconditional welcome extended to all, regardless of their background, social status, or circumstances. We claim this in our worship service introductions, do we not? Emily did so this morning. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever you believe, whomever you love, etc., you are welcome here. But do we truly honor this pledge? We are, after all, human beings, and we are inclined to feel more comfortable with people we know, people who are like us. And as human beings, we feel less comfortable when we are with people who have different ideas and interests, different points of view, different backgrounds, different perspectives. Over the years, I have worked with many congregations who have prized being with, quote, like-minded persons. One congregation I worked with even put it into their mission statement. Marilyn Sewell is a writer, leader, activist, and speaker. She is the Minister Emerita of the First Unitarian Church of Portland, Oregon, where she served as a senior minister for 17 years before she retired. As she sees it, we need to not just talk about opening the doors, we need to open our hearts. She writes, I speak of radical hospitality today because there is a world out there that needs home, that needs community, and I want us to stretch spiritually, to stretch ourselves open. I know that when we take the risk, we'll make mistakes, but our lives will grow so much richer and deeper because we have extended ourselves. And she continues, our creativity will blossom, for we will not be stuck with our old assumptions, our narrow ways of perceiving reality. Our world will grow wider and softer and more trusting. Hospitality is not a mere social grace. It is a spiritual and ethical issue. It is an issue involving what it means to be human. To receive others is to expose ourselves to all sorts of frightful dangers of attachment and rejection. Hospitality acknowledges the vulnerability of being human, both my humanity and that of the stranger. And yet our Unitarian Universalist principles, if they do still exist, compel us to engage in radical hospitality. We take pride in the principle of respecting the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. But what does that mean? How do we show it? If I feel ignored, if I feel alone in a church full of people, am I expected to understand or believe in that principle? If I don't feel connected to those around me, can I have faith in the principle that calls us to the interpersonal web of life of which we are all part? The rule of St. Benedict teaches us that hospitality, rather than being something that you achieve, is something you enter, something you enter. It is not something you do as much as someone you become. You try and you fail, and you try again. You make room for one person at a time, and each of these choices of the heart stretches your ability to receive others. This is how we grow more hospitable, by welcoming one person at a time when the opportunity is given to us. And this practice of hospitality is not easy, particularly those of us who are introverts. There are hurdles, there are enemies of hospitality, and among them are fear, suspicion, and self-centeredness. Many of us are unwilling to trust others to give us what we need. We grow callous and hesitant from the fear of being rejected, and so we keep people at a distance. And for many of us, we are so caught up in our own lives, in our own problems or struggles to just live, that we lose sight of others, that we lose sight of what else is important. There is a market in Mexico City where an old man named Portolamo is selling onions. There are 20 strings of onions in front of him. When an American walks up and asks, "How much for a string of onions?" 10 cents, says the old man. "How much for all of it, the whole 20 strings?" "I will not sell you the whole 20 strings," replies Portolamo. "Why not?" asks the American. "Aren't you here to sell onions?" "No, I am here to live my life. I love this market. I love the children. I love when my friends come by and talk about their babies and their crops. That is my life, and for that reason, I sit here with my 20 strings of onions. If I sell all my onions to one customer, then my day is over, and I have lost my life that I love, and that I will not do. As members of a congregation, do we live our lives selling onions, or do we enjoy our lives with our fellow congregants? Do we pay more attention to our own thoughts and needs, or to what we have to get done? Or do we reach out to others, even the stranger, to engage with them, to listen to their thoughts, and in doing so, perhaps meeting their needs? Listening has been called the key to St. Benedict's entire spiritual teaching, the core meaning of hospitality. It is a special kind of deep attentiveness to all of life. Benedict's rule is a guide to sharpening the ears of the heart. Sharpening the ears of the heart. I love that reference. Listen, St. Benedict tells us, listen. It will sometimes break your heart, but it will also give you a heart. Authors Holman and Pratt tell us that hospitality is a way to counter the thousands of times another human being had felt less than human because others didn't listen. When you listen, you get past yourself. The focus switches from the self to the other. If we do no other thing than train ourselves to listen to others, they advise, we will have taken great steps to hospitality. But St. Benedict doesn't call us to listen on the surface. He wants us to listen way down deep. This is from the book on radical hospitality. You know the place. It's the same place that weeps at the sight of a newborn. The same place that falls silent at the edge of a mountain. The same place that reaches for a falling sparrow. Listen from that place. Listening is at the heart of Benedictine spirituality because it is the only way to see through the eyes of another. When we listen to another, we catch a slight glimpse of their soul. We create an open page where they are free to write their story. Welcoming, connecting, listening, reaching out. These are the keys to radical hospitality. These are the ways that Unitarian Universalists should be with one another and with the stranger. I close with one more quote from Father Holman and Lonnie Collins Pratt. What matters is that we stretch our hearts open and draw near to each other. It is the way of hospitality, the way of life, and it is in this remote place where we have awakened to find ourselves the only way home. So may it be. Our closing hymn, We Would Be One, is number 318. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Now is the time when we extinguish our chalice, so if you would like to join in saying or extinguishing the chalice words, they're right up there on the board. We extinguish the uniting, put it off, which does the ward of the community, on the fire of the community. These bear in our hearts and in our hands, until we are together again.
So let us begin. Let us go forth from this time and place in the strength of our joy, in the conviction of our beliefs, and in the power of our compassion. And let us begin our lives again today. We can do no more and no less. Our service is ended.
Coffee. Join us for next coffee in the fellowship room.